want to talk about today is law. And what that really means. You see, in our, well, maybe I'll preface this with something else. All things change as time changes or as space changes. Time does not change as space changes. Position in space makes a difference. We're in a space right now of change, of what is called the age of Aquarius, in which the energy of the time is change. The energy of the time is the possibility of enlightenment or the possibility of insanity, either one, more insane or awakening. In this time, all that you think you know changes. Religions change. They change because the energy affects everything. And in this possibility now, it is the breakdown of the order of all things except the law. We experience the turmoil and the anger and the war and all that now because we live against the law. It is not like we have been taught. We have been taught you obey the law of God. Well, what is the law of God is the question. Separate and apart from the fuzz that has been placed upon it by men or people who lack understanding. So the question is, what is the law? The law is that which never changes. It appears to change to the eye that doesn't see. Let's take a beginning law. We talk about the Big Bang, or the origin of the time-space continuum. Before the beginning of the time-space continuum, all matter in the universe was together at one point, less than the size of an atom. Now you have to follow me, okay? And I ask you to follow me because if you haven't already seen this, it is difficult. It's one of the things that we've talked about before, and I said, you think in three-dimensional terms. My job at this point is to help you think in 4 dimensions. Well, I lied. It's an infinite number of dimensions. But for all practical purposes, let's think of 4. Let's think of that point where there is no time-space. There is no time because there is no space. When everything was together at one point, all matter, it became so intense and so hot that movement was forced. Now you've got the Big Bang. Let us call this point temperature 1. That energy is so hot, no mass exists. There is a flow of something that you do not define, you cannot define, that explosion. So out of that came movement. Let us call this point temperature 2. As it cooled, it became matter. But matter at the subatomic level, matter smaller than an atom. At some point at temperature 3, it began to build up, it began to coalesce. But what you still had was flow. So the nature or the law of the universe is flow. All things in their natural state flow. All things. Space itself is a flow. Now, dismiss an idea that space is nothing. It has to be something because it exists. It has to be something because it exists. Nothing does not exist. The word itself, no thing. Nothing. Space is something. It is very, very fine, but if you look at the way things exist, they exist from the finer to the coarsest. If you look at space, you look at air, you look at water, you look at earth, all of it flows. You look at the magnetic poles of the earth, the magnetic energy flows, so it all follows a law, and that law is flowing, what appears to be flowing. Let's just accept it as flowing. This is the law. This is the mold. The mold, like molding jello. The jello is the result of the mold. Except in everything, the mold is so fine, you can't see it with your biomechanical tool, your eyes. It is so fine. You can with the internal eyes. You can if you dismiss everything you think you know from your mind and accept what you find. You will find this flow. The energy flows. That's what causes space to flow. That's what causes air to flow. That's what causes water to flow. The water flows because of the flow of the air currents. The earth flows through space, flows in a circle. That's also a part of what makes the water flow. The magnetic energy at the core of the planet flows. Also helps that whole thing to flow. That's what weather is. The air flows from here to here to here. The temperatures vary. You get rain, you get snow, you get all of these things. So the law is flow. Therefore, in humanity, the law of the body is flow. So when you are knotted up with these habitual behaviors, the flow of your energy is dammed up. Notice the word, dammed, dammed up. Notice the word, damned. You've seen that word a lot. You are damned to hell. So, yeah, well, hell is is a place where flow is lacking. And if flow is lacking, the fullness of life can't be experienced. That is why in the individual, that whole dam has to break. If the individual is to understand and to have peace. If the individual is to understand and have peace. If the individual is to experience love, because love is a result of the flow. All things are felt. Love is felt by your biomechanical mechanism. your body. Love is felt. But if it is damned, the friction is great, so the friction is not joyful. It is not pleasurable. It is that knot that you can't get rid of. It is the damnation of the individual. Now think of that word damned in a different way than you have thought of it in the past. Chances are you've thought of the word damned and didn't know what it meant, but you were afraid of it. Well, now, it's nothing to be afraid of. It is to be understood. The energy of the times, or the flow of the time, dictates that you let go of old ideas for the new, for the truth. And this is true. You need not take my word. Look for yourself. You see air flows. You see water flows. The earth itself flows. See, the earth flows? Yes, it does. It's just so big and so dense, and you are so small, and your time is so short, you don't have time to see it. We call it continental drift. If you drop something into water, you get a bloop. If it flows over something, you get a wave. Well, the earth has those. They're called mountains and hills, just like the waves of an ocean. They are just very, very slow in terms of the perception of man. But in the time of the earth, they are happening very quickly. Happening as quickly in the time of the earth as those other things that you recognize happen in your time. It is the same. The law is the law is the law. And when something blocks that flow, you have a problem. If something blocks the flow of energy from the sun to the earth, what will happen? The earth will die. Something blocks the flow of energy within you, what happens? You begin to die. And you will. To have peace and to experience the joy of the flow of life, you must flow. I've said it before. When you are angry, when you operate habitually, you don't feel good. Anger doesn't feel good. Frustration doesn't feel good. It is not the thing that you blame. The thing that you blame is an outcropping of your mind. The blame comes from your mind and not from what is felt. If you know and understand what is felt, it is that the energy is not flowing. That's what doesn't feel good. But what do we do because of our ignorance and our desire to blame things outside of ourselves for our state of being that we can't see? That the state of being we are in is the result of our own behavior. Doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. If it were not so, if that were not so, we would all be pretty happy. But it is so. Salvation is saving myself from myself, not something else. There would be no hope if it all happened outside of me, because there's nothing you can do about those things and those people outside of you. And if you recognize that, you recognize the foolishness of trying to change someone else so that you can be happy. They are not going to do it. They have the same right as you. The right to be joyful, or the right to understand, or the right to be a damn idiot. And the choice is the individual's. The choice is each person. We like to talk about the equality of all human beings. So do I. And to expect that we make use of our intelligence is the recognition of the equality of all people. Only insecure, doubtful, afraid people don't examine and acknowledge the truth about themselves and want to blame others. There is no strength in that. Anybody can fight in war, and we call it brave. Brave is when you face your own stuff and recognize it. Recognize the truth and live in that truth. Recognize law and live with that law. When you recognize the law and live with the law, life changes. It is the salvation that was promised. And I use the word salvation because now I want you to have a new understanding of what salvation means. It means nothing more than to be saved from oneself. Just to be saved. But we run around saying, oh, Jesus, save me. Jesus has already said, save yourself. He's already said it. The Buddha said it. All who know have said it. Save yourself. Okay? When I was a kid, there was a beautiful white church. I say white church because black people could go, but they had to sit way up in the back in the loft, okay, behind the bell tower. And there was a man, a black guy, who worked there as a janitor. And he was in there one day, and the church caught fire. And as the story goes, everything was ablaze. All the fire was around him, and he fell on his knees, and he said, oh, Lord, save me, Jesus, save me. And the wall fell. And he stood up and he said, that's all right, Lord, I got it. I'll save myself. Save yourself. The law is there. Here's the thing. We don't want to be wrong. Everybody wants to be the hero of their story. And they lie about it. They lie about it to themselves. What I say to you is be the hero and accept the truth about it. But as you accept the truth about your shortcomings, you must accept the truth about your power. You must accept the truth about what flows within you, the godliness. Now, I'm not talking about, hallelujah, godliness, jump around, shout, turn around 4 times, jump up in the air, and all that crap. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the absolute power that lay within you. The absolute power that is yours. That is what you are. In order to understand that, even the block, well, let's put it like this. Everything follows that mode of flow. What is natural, what is native, is flow. What you call that word God, or whatever you call it, doesn't matter what you call it, it's not what you call it anyway. It's invisible. It's the mold. When form comes into being, a knot has formed in the flow. There has to be a pooling of the flow in order to create the moment. And that moment is each and every individual is a moment in the flow of what you call God or an energy. This is a basic thing to being human, to being physical. That is why in the East they show the chakras as spinning pools of energy. They transform the pure energy into form, into flesh. That's okay. Those are okay to keep. But now what we're talking about is the ones that are formed from your opinions of the world, the ones that are formed from your fear, from your doubt, from your lack of, from your belief systems. These are the ones that have to disentangle. Okay. These flows, these spins happen. So, if you recall, and if you have studied your tapes and have listened to these lectures, you understand that I have called these things the first distortion, or what is referred to in your Bible as original sin, original sin. Now, that word sin that you think you know, you have to let go of. The way you see that word, because you think this as a, whoo, well, that is what I like to call Walt Disney religion, which is overseen by the Seven Dwarfs, Pluto, Goofy, and all those other people. They formed a coalition and formed religions, especially Goofy. We have to dismiss that idea of what sin means. It simply means cut off from the source, not living with the source, not living with that flow. That flow. See, everything that's flowing feels good. Why do you like to be stroked? Because it's a flow. It's a flow. And you go, oh, that feels nice. Well, yes, because it mimics the law. Off of the law, everything happens. The law of flow. Everything happens off of the law. Everything looks like the law. Everything that is lawful, everything that is godly, if you want to use those terms, or everything that is right. When the belief systems are there, they act as boulders in the stream of flow. The water is flowing, all of a sudden you get it hit this big boulder. You have rapids, you have disturbances in the flow. You see the rapids, white foaming up all in this point, instead of the cool flow, level flow, you got, and rapids are dangerous. That's why the habitual belief, which is like a rock, which is like a knot in the stream or a knot in the flow, are dangerous to you as an individual. So the whole thing is to save the individual, for the individual to save themselves. But in order to do that, they must understand. Look to the law. Look to the law. When you bring the old to this, you're just bringing more boulders. You have to look to understand, to create more rapids. I see it all the time. I see people grow greater than what is being passed on here. Well, let's go back to the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. They were in paradise. Paradise was not a garden, not a place, a physical place, but a state of mind, a state of being. And they were running around without clothes, doing things that people do without clothes, getting stung by bees and stuff like that. Anyway. All of a sudden, the eating of the fruit is not a fruit. It's not an apple. It is dividing the world up. Oh my God, you're naked. You should cover that thing up. And the guy is saying, yeah, well, you should cover it up because it tempts me. The snake is the temptation. The snake is the lowest vibration, which is the lowest thought. It's not a snake. Snakes don't talk. Okay? You ever seen a snake talk? Surely in all the years that snakes have been on this planet, if one of them spoke, they would have said something by now. If they're crossing the road and here comes a car, you'd think you'd hear a snake go, here comes a car, get out of the way. But snakes don't talk. So it's not a snake, but that long vibration, which is the source of things. What is physical. And to become absorbed into that. Now, when that happens, the division happens, a division between the flow and the knots in the flow. And they became as wise as God. Doesn't mean anything except when you think you know something that you don't know. Oh, I know better than what is natural. And what I'm telling you is what is natural. And here's what I see in many cases over the years in terms of this group, or groups that I have worked with. People in it have become wiser than the law. They don't exhibit the law, but they talk the law. And then they walk away. Because one of the things that they do, which is very stupid, is compare themselves to me when there is no comparison. There's no, oh, well, I know. I have people that I've tried to say to them, look, here's what's happening. Oh, no, Ananda, so and so and so. And I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you do it. They have become as wise as God. I'm not saying as wise as Ananda because Ananda has nothing to do with it. I'm just the radio broadcasting the message that comes from someplace else. And that same message or that same thing is within each and every person. So the whole attitude of that makes no sense. But when we are divided within, it makes perfect sense. But that story of the Adam and Eve in the garden is the story of the birth and the life of every individual. It's not a place that the preacher thinks that we were running around picking apples off the tree or whatever the hell all that is. It's not that kind of place. That kind of place never existed. To the wise, to those who have sought salvation from ignorance, or saving themselves from ignorance, they know that it's not a physical place. If you are still fighting and in turmoil with your brothers and your sisters, that's because you are in turmoil with yourself. And if you are in turmoil with yourself, what do? We don't try and solve problems. Look at your political race. Everybody is talking about everything except the issue. If you're not talking about the issue, you can't solve the problem. We do the same thing. People, individuals do the same thing. They're not getting to the issue and solving the problem. They've got to inject all the other crap into the situation. So all you get is division. But they don't want to give up the crap that causes them not to be able to solve the problem. But yet, what we do, we look at the rest of the world and say them. We look at the rest of the world and say, those politicians, or those guys over there in the Middle East, and those guys down in South America, or those guys up in Canada, you know, Canada is our enemy. Those guys down in Mexico, those guys over here, those white guys, those black guys, those yellow guys, those brown guys, those guys, they don't want to solve the problem. Well, no, look at yourself. One of the things that happened in learning the flow of myself, of learning what the issue was, I saw all the ills of the world and came to one conclusion. The holiest of holy, that shit stops here. I stop it right here. No complexity, nothing about if there is money involved, do I make an adjustment? Because we all know if we look out here, well, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so, let some money get involved. Everybody has a price. There's a man and a woman on an airplane, and she's looking beautiful and everything. And he looks at her and says, wow, you're really beautiful. And she looks at him. He says, look, would you sleep with me for $100? And she said, no. He said, would you sleep with me for $1 million? And she said, yeah. He said, well, would you sleep with me for $5? She said, no, what do you think I am? He said, we've already established that. What we are haggling over now is the price. So if we look at people, at what price do we sell our souls? At what price does the whore come out in us? What price is it? What is our price? Every individual has to think of that. That's why in that moment, in order to cross that threshold, I had to say, it stops here with me. I am not for sale. There is no price tag. When there is no price tag, we go to the heart of the issue. When form doesn't rule, we go to the heart of the issue and we solve the problem. We solve whatever the problem is. It really is as simple as that. Have you ever noticed why we don't solve problems? Why the same problems we had back in whenever are the same problems now? When I was teaching, I read a report about the conditions of the schools in Chicago. That report was from 1910 or something like that. I read a report about the conditions of the schools in Chicago in 1973. It was the same report, formulated at different times. So what changed? Nothing, because we were too busy compromising instead of that personal stuff being out of the way and dealing with what the issue is. And the issue was educating children. Truly educating children. That's the issue. So, we have to take a look. I made mention of that because over the time in the groups, we've had people come and go. I made mention of that story because I wanted you to see in the flow of that story the truth in that Garden of Eden thing. It expresses the lives of people on a trip. It expresses the lives of people on a trip in that flow, or out of that flow. Out of that flow, out of that becoming as wise as God, came two things: breath of God and love of form. Seth, or Cain, and Abel. The translations of the name. Cain slew Abel. This is a story of what happens within every individual at some point. Cain, love of form, destroys breath of God. Abel means breath of God. The translation. Look it up in Hebrew. Look it up. So as they became divided in themselves, Cain slew Abel because they became too involved in this. Therefore, the problems of their lives could not be solved because gain of physical things became more important than to be godly. Do you understand? Out of the natural flow, the mold, the law of the natural flow. Because these things got in here. Okay. These things about form. Now, as I talk to you, is the problem about that, about becoming as wise as the law, which is nothing more than saying becoming as wise as God, becoming wiser than the law, to ignore the law for this, to allow this to be more important than the law. Well, if you look at it, what has happened? As man has done that, we have denied the law within all things. Have we not poisoned the air? Have we not poisoned the water? Have we not poisoned the earth itself? Because we deny the life force within those things. We cannot work together because we deny the life force within everyone else. Here we are, seeing the world through our crap and blaming it on someone else. I watch arguments go on in the groups. I watch the same thing in New York as I watch here, or as I watched when I was going down to Atlanta. I will say the same thing, and before they walk out the door, they're arguing. Because somebody is so smart, they know what's going on in somebody else. Didn't you hear? You didn't hear shit. Or you did hear shit. That's what happened. Pointing the finger like this. No, the fingers go this way. They go this way. What are you doing? I am projecting out here. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm expressing law to you. You have to hear it and take it to yourself. Because if you don't do that, you never cure the person that's ill, the only person that you can cure. You can go to the doctor and they can prescribe the medicine. If you don't take it, you don't take it. That's up to you. It is the equality of being human. Choice. Choice. You choose to take it if you want to feel better, or not. Or not. Some medicine they prescribed for me, I don't take. But it was because of very careful consideration about what it is they were giving me and what it is they were going to do. They said, well, if you take this, it'll stop the growth of hair on your face. Your tongue will get hairy, but it won't grow on your face anymore. And I have to say, hairy tongue, hairy face. This face is okay. Okay? It's just an example. So it's careful deliberation of thinking, not having thoughts. But when you are caught in those whirlpools or those knots of behavior, you are not thinking, you are having thoughts. You are having thoughts, and there is no solution in having thoughts. In automatic response behavior, there is no solutions. I am right, and I pontificate. I'm right now. Everybody else is wrong. I don't say you're wrong. What have I said? If you live your life this way, it really sucks. If you live it this way, it's great. Now you decide. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying if you put your hand in fire, it burns. If I were you, I wouldn't do that, but hey, that's up to you. If you like the smell of burned hand, it's okay. It's okay by me. It's all right by me. You have the right to choose. But I have the right to choose whether I want to be around you. We all God's children got rights. If you're a hellraiser, drinking, carousing, hitting people in the head with bats and getting hit in the head with bats. Come on, Ananda, let's go have some fun. Nah. My idea of fun is laying on the couch. I'm not, no. I did that, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, okay? That's why I got so many scars today. It's like, I think I'll pass. But here's the deal. You can't do it intellectually. It must be a real space that develops. It's like we were talking on the way here. You experience through what you did that space where, it's an understanding. Yes. What do I say to you? I'm just painting a picture for you. I'm telling you what the possibility can be. Now, if you understand the words to that, you go, yes. But now let me understand the actualization of that. It has to be actualized. It has to come to that space where I am in the natural flow, where that is not an issue. You see, the peripheral stuff that goes on as an individual from an individual, the peripheral stuff, the personality stuff, well, I want this and I want that. When there's a problem to be solved, the peripheral stuff doesn't count. But when you are in that space, it doesn't count. When you have to make a decision, it does count. It counts against you because you feel it. And I know you feel it. You cannot deny that you feel the knot, the anger, the frustration. And then what do we say? Well, I don't care. No, you do care. By the way you said, I don't care, says that you do care. I said, when I say I don't care, it means I have no thought about it. Didn't think about it. One way or the other. There's no care in me about it. There is no care in me. I don't care. I have no care about it. Well, I don't care. Yes, you do. Listen to the sound. No, not everyone outside of you hears the sound. What you must hear is the sound within yourself. And be honest and tell the truth to yourself and live with the truth. See, that's the issue. The issue is not me. The issue is not the world. The issue is every individual. Every individual. When Cain slew Abel, when the love of form slayed the breath of God, one of the curses was you meet people along the road and they will all want to harm you because you are attracting those same things that are in yourself. You are a slayer. So what will you meet? Slayers. You see, what the story really is not the Walt Disney version. I'm telling you that this version is the story of the birth and the life in the flow of every individual. So we have to be honest with ourselves. That's the only solution. And we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves. What? I was just in New York and I hurt some feelings. Ooh, boy, did I ever hurt feelings. I had people crying. Because, you see, I'm going to die. I don't have time. I may not die for another 100 years, but I still don't have time anymore. I've said for 20 years, 30 years, look at this. And they come back with the same crap. It's like, okay, here you go. There's no longer the gentle Ananda. Let's see if we can speak in a language that you understand. What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, he said, fuck. Well, see, that's the idea of getting your attention. Got your attention? Because when I said, my child, you should not do that, you didn't hear me. And when I said it 1,000 times, you didn't hear that. But you heard, what the fuck is wrong with you? You stopped and you paused for a moment. Be honest and truthful with yourself about your crap. Stop blaming others. Be honest and be truthful with yourself. Everybody sees you. Everybody, including you, You just don't want to admit it. It releases you. I no longer have to keep up the front. Now the knot comes disentangled. The energy flows, and it's like, oh, yeah. I don't have to do that anymore. And someone comes to you with the game, and you go, nah, I don't think so. Thank you, but no thank you. Nah, I don't want to do that. But I'm your child. Yeah. But I don't care who you are. It's not about who, it's about what. And what you're bringing in, nah, we don't want to do that. No. I am going to live this way because the crap stops here. 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 Someone brought to the group 5 statements of dying people. I forget what they all were. One of them was, the dying wish of most people is, I wish I had lived my life differently. I wish I had lived my life without all the pretenses. I wish I had lived my life openly and honestly. Too late now, bro. Step on through that door and keep on going, which means now I have wasted my life on a lie, on that thing that is not true. But that's only because I kept lying to myself. That's all. And all I'm saying to you is that the peace comes from living in that honest flow. There are knots in that flow, but those knots are natural to being in a physical form. Now all the psychological lies and knots that accompany that are the problem. See, you can live in physical form. When you live in physical form without all the divisive or the division or the being wiser than the law knots, then you have brought God to life in form. But when you don't, you have brought the devil to life in form. The devil, the division, the problem. The law is simple. We make it complex because, we don't want to be wrong. I noticed years and years ago, well, first of all, let me say this to you. The theatrical person you see before you is a result of something. Were I to just be the voice of what I was or what I am, you don't listen to, because that voice is very soft. Years and years ago. But then I noticed that people reacted to me in such a way that it put what I'm saying out of their reach. Oh my God. Oh. So I got to say, okay, now let's do this another way. Look, I'm just another guy passing through, all right? Cut the shit. Oh, what? Huh? What you hear now and the way you hear it was to eliminate the fuzz. Because what we were involved in was something, it was true, but not true in the sense that people thought it was. So we had to cut the fuzz off and say, well, look, You can do this too. I'm just a guy, you're just a guy or a girl or whatever, and we can do this. It doesn't mean reduce me to the same idiocy that you carry or that one carries when they carry idiocy. It doesn't mean do that. It means see it for what it is, and I'm trying to make it simple. I'm trying to make the law simple. Just back off and see the law. Any person can do it. Any person can do it. I am still as soft as I ever was. I'm still as gentle as I ever was. The other thing I found that people misunderstood softness and gentleness. They think that means I won't kick you in the balls. I will. If you ask for it, of course I will. It doesn't mean I have to be pissed at you. No. I just need to have to defend myself when I am attacked physically. That doesn't mean I go out looking for trouble. I'm asking for trouble. I do everything I can to step around it. Everything I can to stay out of the fuzz. Okay? What did I do? I did that because I'm trying to get a point across. I'm trying to get a point across. There are people in New York, gangbangers. Few here call me OG. You let them call you that? Yeah, well, yeah. It's what they mean, not what you think they mean. In order to get to talk to them, you have to talk to them the way they hear things. And they hear an OG say, hey, doesn't have to be that way. Hey, what up, dog? My man, what's going on? I'm saying, can we talk? And yes, we can talk. Not passing through and being mightier than thou or holier than thou. Well, that's true, holier than thou, but hey, that's not the point. The point is to be able to talk to you. But we have that misunderstanding. And I usually have this trouble with men, not too much with women. Guys who want to compete with me, which is the stupidest thing, because there is no competition. That's just frailing at the air and fighting for no reason with something that's not even fighting with you. I had a group of guys in New York. Well, Ananda, so yeah, kiss my holy ass. I'm not going to involve myself in that with you. That's a guy ego trip. Don't you see what's happening inside of you? Don't you see? Well, see, we think, I don't care what you think. There's the door. If you have not understood what has been said to you, that these things are going to happen, you recognize those things for what is going on in you, your ego trip, and change that so that you feel better. You don't feel in competition with me because what I'm giving you is the law, which means you're competing with the law, and it doesn't give.